Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my 3 sketchbooks that I have made during our 3 years travelling on the road in our van. These sketchbooks document our time in Scotland during the summer months. In the winter months we travelled through France, Spain, Morocco most recently, and then also in previous years through to Italy, Croatia and Bosnia. There's a lot of memories tied up in these sketchbooks, but they also aren't particularly big or extensive considering how much experience we've packed into those 3 years, and I think that's for a number of reasons. First one is that I'm not a very prolific sketchbooker in general. I never have been, although after working on these 3 books I would say that I've become more interested in the practice and can definitely see that my enjoyment of the practice has grown throughout these pages. Certainly during the first few years of travelling on the road I was working on some big publishing projects as a freelance illustrator. Obviously I had to prioritise paid work a lot of the time, so I'm excited to share these books with you. I think there's some good exploration here. There's definitely some memories captured and some interests explored. Here is my first of the 3 sketchbooks. When did I start this one? 2022, and it has some work from 2023 and 2024. I've called it the Interrupted Sketchbook. Okay, so this is the first page we're dealing with. Oh, it's a real mishmash of things. So this is a whalebone from my whalebone zine, which I was producing right at the start of van life as well, and it's just hanging around inside here. And then these are some small paintings from whalebone zine as well, whale eye. And then also this castle, which I think I drew in Wales, Crickhowell Castle. Ah yes, and here's a whalebone sketch that I made in Bristol in November of 2022. So this is a whalebone that was taken from North American seas during the height of the whaling industry when we were first colonising North America. So my whalebone zine explores the ideas of colonialism and the beginnings of capitalism and the threatening nature of the whaling industry and the fishing industries and how we can protect whales in order to save ourselves. So it's like come full circle. And that's what the whalebone represented. And then we have some sketches from our first trip to Spain, I believe, in early 2023. These are some walnut shells, and this is a pine cone covered in lichen. I don't really like traditional lead grey pencils, but a black colouring pencil, love it. Some more sketches from our time in Spain. Here's Madrid in January 2023. A strawberry tree, fruit. Strawberry trees are amazing. And then this is an Iberian lynx skull, which we found on one of our walks and I wanted to do a study of, and it was fascinating to find that. I really kind of regret not keeping that skull, although obviously the things that make it really distinctive, like the eye sockets and the teeth and the jaw, are gone. It's just the back of the skull, but still it's cool to think about that there's a wild beast like that in the Spanish wilderness and we found its skull once it passed away. So yeah, this is a study of that and I really like it. I like the use of colour. I'm going to try and big myself up in this video. And now we are on Isla. First time on Isla 2023 in early spring, so it's April. There's a drinker moth caterpillar and these are some oyster catchers that I was getting to know for the first time. Having not lived by the sea before, I didn't really have that much knowledge on seabirds, but now my knowledge is improving and oyster catchers will probably forever be one of my favourites. They're just such characters. There's lots of hares on Isla, especially in the spring. And this is a common lizard, which I also drew in April. And this is me getting into my seabirds. We've got a northern gannet. Oh, I think I'm entering my bug girl era at this point, just really loving my isopods. These are sea slaters, and this is an egg sac from a thornback ray. Yes, I'm in my bug girl era. Here's a page of weevils. I love weevils so much. I don't see enough of them. Every time I see a weevil, I pick them up, I scream at them, I love them. I love their big long snoots. And I don't care that they're seen as pests. Here is a collage that I made. I really love this collage. I made it with the intention of then painting it, but I didn't do that. And this is a drawing of a yellow flag iris. Stoats. A page of stoats. Study of some seaweed that I kept in a jar, some beautiful pink maroon seaweed. These are some ringed plover birds on the Rins of Isla. And my favourite caterpillars ever, the cinnabar caterpillars. Here we have some more bugs. shield bugs are up there, some of my favourite bugs. And then this is August, and this is a diary that I made when I found an elephant hawk moth caterpillar, and I decided that I wanted to try and raise it and help it become a moth and watch its process as it transforms into a chrysalis, because I had done some reading about this, seen someone else do this at one point, and I wanted to have that experience, but it unfortunately ended very badly and the caterpillar didn't survive. We had a heat wave at this time. We were in Wales and it was so hot, it was like reaching the high 20s, and we couldn't cool the van down, and I think that might have contributed as to why the caterpillar didn't survive. But I was just noticing its habits every day. I was feeding it and finding its food. Borders for this diary are some pressed flowers that I pressed during our time on Isla, some native flowers, and then these little drawings of the caterpillar. When I was first introduced to this caterpillar, it was green, and then it became brown over time, which was so cool to see, and it quadrupled in size. It was huge by the time it was almost ready to become a chrysalis, and then it died. Unfortunately, I don't think I would ever do this again. I really regret like meddling with the natural process. I shouldn't have done it. And then this is another page of bugs. These are crickets. I love crickets. Barely ever see a cricket these days. I used to see them a lot in my childhood. The bright green ones, you just find them in the corner of your room. So I wanted to draw them. And again, I'm drawing in my favourite black coloured pencil. Now some more isopods and ancient bug girl vibes. So I found some fossils in the Bristol Museum and I just really wanted to draw them. I'm just like following my interests a lot with this sketchbook. Trilobites, that's what they're called. And then this is a study of some lovely vintage toys that my mother-in-law has on display in their house. Yeah, I drew these in October of 2023. Then we have study of some sweet chestnuts again in October. We were kind of staying in the countryside in southeast England. We were collecting sweet chestnuts, finding quite big ones to forage, and we roasted them and ate them in the van, so that was a wholesome activity. And then I also did this study in coloured pencil. I really like that one. And we're back to bugs. Arundel, which is a place we stayed at a lot in autumn 2023. It used to be a very van friendly place. There used to be a big long road with free parking and lots of van dwellers would be there, and it was a lovely place. That area has been lost. It was also a place that a lot of the locals used to park their cars and feel safe because there was always someone about, you know, keeping watch of the area, and now that's gone. So yeah, it's just something that's happening a lot in England. We could hear the owls a lot at night whilst we were camped here. So I drew a tawny owl, some longhorn beetles, and then this is another piece of artwork from our time staying at Arundel. There was a lot of like flooded fields close by to our van, and there was cattle egret and then lovely cows that were just frolicking in the puddles and just enjoying their time together, and I just thought they made such a lovely pairing. So I did this coloured pencil and watercolour piece. And then I was working on some ideas for some new mini prints, so that's what this is. And this is a painting for the dog park board game, which I've done a lot of illustrations for. And then these are just some swatches. I'm not sure, I can't remember why I did these. We went to Cornwall, Devon and Cornwall, in the winter of 2023. We were basically just, at this point, just waiting to travel internationally, but yeah, we thought we'd explore Devon and Cornwall, and I was really getting into Cornish folklore. I definitely find that Cornwall especially can be quite soulless in the winter time because it's been taken over a lot by holiday homes. So I was just really looking for the soul of Cornwall, and obviously in the winter those holiday homes are mostly empty, so you're visiting quaint little towns that are mostly empty. I was just really craving some life, so I was looking into the folklore and traditions, non-commercialised, anti-capitalist, I would say, traditions in Cornwall, because there is a Cornish identity, there is a Cornish independence movement. One of the traditions, which is quite interesting is the obios, which is something that happens during May Day. And then this is the little song they sing. Unite, and let us all unite, for summer is a come unto the day, and whither we are going we will all unite in the merry morning of May. This is a sketch of a carving that we found in a very, very old church in Devon. We visited the National Lobster Hatchery in Padstow, which was cool to see, even though they are raising lobsters for them then to be killed in the fishing industry. So they release them into the wild, but with the intention of helping stocks of lobsters to be fished by the fishermen. So it's, I don't know, it's not a completely wholesome activity. You are just thinking about people eating lobsters unnecessarily. But it was cool to see them, and this kind of lobster wasn't at the hatchery, but it's a cool phenomenon that happens when lobsters are half one colour, half the other colour. I forget what it's called, but they're just so striking. It's such an amazing thing that happens in nature. You should look it up yourself if you're interested. And yeah, here's me exploring more folklore in the area in St Agnes. This is the Giant Bolster Festival. And then these are some ancient stones. I really like how I've drawn these. I like the colour combinations in coloured pencil. I just really love colour pencil. And then this is another little painting for Dog Park board game. I just stuck it in there. And a little postcard to remember our time in Cornwall when we found some little park ups in the middle of nowhere. This was a really peaceful little spot that we stayed in November. Ooh, there's a big long jump because now we're in April 2024. So we are in Treviso in northern Italy. I was really feeling drawn towards the carved lions in Treviso, so I drew them, and I love this page. They've got so much character, all these lions. I really love this page too. I think we're still in Italy at this point. It's just some studies of some horse chestnuts, a border of conkers and leaves. And then I was getting a little bit into my collaging, I guess. Always loved collaging, and whenever I feel a little bit stuck, I tend to come back to that. So this is one of my grub paintings that I just cut out. It was for a really old project I worked on. These are some Polaroids when my family came to visit us in Spain in January of 2024. And this is when we were in Crema in northern Italy, visiting one of my friends, and it was such a memorable time to go visit them. And we found these, I don't have any illustrations of that time, but we did find some beautiful pretzel buns in the supermarket. And this is a drawing from a fresco. Is that what they're called? A painted wall. This is the end of the sketchbook almost, but this is a sketch of a poster that I made for a campaign group called This Is Rigged in Scotland about the cost of living. So this is the sketch I showed them, and then I made that into a poster. Not technically a sketchbook, but these are 3 paintings that I made, and they are in the first sketchbook, so I'll show them to you. But these are from our time on Mull last year. It's such a gorgeous island in Scotland. If you ever want to visit somewhere that is just like teeming with life, has so much nature. I wonder if I should make these into postcards. And then we move on to my second sketchbook. Should we zoom in a little bit more because this sketchbook's a bit smaller. This is a scene in Tobermory, which is the main town on the Isle of Mull, which is where we went for our second summer. We have some tutsin and then a dog rose. I'm trying to learn my native plants a little bit better. So here we have some more native plants and some studies of some birds that I was seeing a lot. Lapwings. There's a lot of lapwings on Isla. There's less on Mull. We only saw a few there. And some chaffinch and a chaffinch. What annoys me about this page is the scale is completely wrong. These are some eider ducks that we saw at Calgary Bay with their little baby ducklings swimming in strong currents. And I saw a red-breasted merganser. This is a little spread about a shrew. I really wanted to capture the softness of their fur, but I don't think I did that. And then this is when I was drawing the shipwrecks on Mull. This is another study from the shipwrecks, the Thallon shipwrecks. This was in June of 2024. A cross-section of textures that you can find. And then this is another sketch from life, which I'm pretty darn proud of. Yeah, this definitely took me a long time and I really struggled with it, but actually when I look at it, I'm really happy, especially with the hills here. The bird's nest. I don't think I identified what kind of bird had made this nest, but it was definitely so beautiful that I found it on a pathway It was made of feathers, grasses, moss and horsehair. Back to our bugs. This is an orchid beetle, garden chaffer, and a sexton beetle, and these ones eat dead animals and decaying things. One of my favourite experiences of last year in Scotland was when I visited the Treshnish Isles, and we went to Lunga Island, which is where there's a huge colony of puffins, and you can get really up close to them. They don't seem to mind the presence of humans at all, and I just had the most amazing experience seeing them all there. So these are some coloured pencils, sketches. Can't forget the razorbills, which are also there as well in large numbers, and it's beautiful to see them. They're so tame. You can just walk right by them. And then these are some more native plants that I wanted to teach myself about. We've got ragged robin and we've got yellow rattle, and then sweet violets as well. I really love those. And some more. I think I was just having a really naturey year on Mull. So we've got some purple loosestrife, which I really love. If you want to encourage elephant hawk moths in your garden, this is the plant that you want to get. They love it. And one of my favourites, self-heal. Got common knapweed here and St. John's wort, which I find quite hard to identify because there's lots of yellow flowers that look like this. So if you have any tips on how to identify St. John's wort properly, let me know. My little oyster studies, because I got really interested in oysters. And I wanted to learn the difference in the different types you get. So this is the non-native species that is quite prolific, like a lot of people eat it. It's one that's very commonly farmed. These ones are native oysters. The native oyster, which is also called the flat oyster, is native to the British Isles and is mostly found on the west coast of Scotland and in the southeast, and in the Thames estuary. A watercolour study of some oyster shells as well. I really love oyster shells, and I really like this double spread that I made. We've got a sketch from life of Sheila's cottage on the Isle of Ulva, which is a tiny little island that you can get to off the coast of Mull. And this is an example of quite an old dwelling, and this is a walrus. I think maybe a walrus had been in the news at that point, about maybe one had visited somewhere in the UK, I'm not sure. But yeah, I wanted to draw it. And then I drew some more walruses as well in black coloured pencil. And then we found a seal tooth on the beach, and then that kind of took me down a little bit of a rabbit hole of understanding seal bones so that I could identify them in the future, because this seal tooth was pretty big. And then we've got some more oysters here and some more cinnabar moth caterpillars. Here is a little sketch of the coloured houses in Tobermory. I really didn't like doing this one, so I stopped. And yeah, this is another study of some boats in the harbour at Tobermory on Mull, and again, I don't enjoy sketching out in public in Tobermory because it's a very, very touristy place in the summer months, so you get a lot of people looking over your shoulder. Not fun. But then we went on our summer holiday to the Outer Hebrides, and we went to the Uists, and this is a traditional thatched croft house which you will find in the Uists, and they're just amazing little buildings. We went to the Kildonan Museum, which was in South Uist. I drew some of the farm tools that they had displayed. A cairn, which is a grinding stone. Again, I drew it at the museum. It was a museum showing like traditional life on the Uists. There's a little painting of our van and a butter stamp. And then this is a painting that I included in my zine. Actually, both of these paintings are in my zine. 2 Scottish Summers, which is about our 2 summers spent on 2 different Scottish islands. So this is a scene from our drone, and we're coming to the end of this sketchbook, so it's just got random things stuck in it now. And there's a little painting of my dogs, and that's the end of that one. Sketchbook number 2. Here's my last sketchbook, and this is when I admit to you that it isn't even halfway finished. Please don't expect too much from this one. This is a Nina Cosford sketchbook, and I really love it. I would definitely buy it again. It's very floppy, which is really lovely to have out on your knees, or I just feel like I can sketch in more places with this floppy style of sketchbook. and the paper quality is really good as well. I would definitely get this again. So here we are in Malaga in 2025. We're in 2025 now, and so the beginning of this year spent in southern Spain. Malaga's a very accommodating city to go to in a van. They have spaces outside the city, and then you can just take the metro into the city, and it costs like hardly anything to take the metro, and it's very convenient and just very easy and safe. So these are some sketches from the Malaga Museum, and it's all archaeological finds found in the city of Malaga over time. And I really loved this ceramic flagon with a plant motif, clay with baratine scales. I'm just drawing whatever I fancy. I'm drawing some chihuahuas, bloody love chihuahuas, and this was from our time in the town of Ronda, which is another beautiful Spanish southern town that I really recommend visiting. It's gorgeous. And then these are just some studies of some seed pods that I was finding in another beautiful town called Antequera. And these are all from January, and they kind of just overlap each other in my sketchbook. I really like using this coloured pencil. It's like a terracotta colour. Antequera has some amazing archaeological things to go and see, some really ancient ruins, and so I wanted to draw some of the carved stones to do with that time period that have been found in the Iberian Peninsula, and especially in Andalusia. I really like drawing stone and incorporating like greys and yellows and purples. I just really feel like it works. And I love the different shapes that come from that time period and the different motifs they were using. And I had to draw some storks because they are a creature that you'll see all over Spain, and I love to see them nesting. They make these ginormous nests. They're just such amazing birds. I really wish we had them in the UK. These are some sketches on the right hand side. These are some biblical lambs that I drew, I think from paintings and from sculptures and little figurines that we were seeing in various museums around Malaga. I've always loved a biblical lamb. And then this is an actual lamb, a real life lamb that we met in Morocco. This lamb was on our campsite in Morocco, and I fell in love with it. It was so gorgeous. But I don't think it had a very long life because it was coming up to Eid at that time. And then, yeah, these are my sketches from Morocco now. Camels, bloody obsessed with these guys. They're so cute, and they were everywhere. But I did feel like I couldn't really look at them for too long or study them, because we would always be approached to ask if we wanted to ride them, and definitely didn't want to ride them. Got the longest eyelashes you could ever imagine. I think they're lovely creatures. And this is a sketch of the beautiful mountains. We were close by to the Atlas Mountains. We didn't go too far into the range because we were worried about breaking down in our van, but we did visit some beautiful mountain towns. This was a beautiful sight from our campsite. There's another study of a lovely mountain town. These are saffron bulbs, because we were in the area where saffron was being grown. And then we have some more saffron crocus flowers and another camel. And then we went on an amazing bird watching trip in Morocco. It was so cool. It was in Boulay Moussoulem as well, and we hired a guide, and he was really great. If you ever are going to Morocco and you would like to go to the Blue Lagoon there, and are looking for a guide, I would definitely recommend him, and just let me know and I can send you his details, because he's in the rough guide books. He told us all about gulls. I'd never really thought about gulls before, but we were learning a lot about them, and we saw a lot of different terns as well. So yeah, this is all of the birds we saw on that trip. Adouin's gull, lesser black-backed gull, slender-bill gull, Mediterranean gull, whiskered tern, a sandwich tern and a Caspian tern. And then we saw some whimbrels, some little egrets, spoonbills and cormorants. It was really cool to see spoonbills in the wild. And then we also saw some flamingos. That was the main reason why we wanted to go bird watching in Morocco, was to see some flamingos in the wild. But then we also enjoyed all of those other unexpected birds as well. So I drew a flamingo and a bumblebee and a poo on my page. And then we left Morocco and we were back in northern Spain. So this is a drawing of an abandoned building in Asturias. And then we have some more drawings from Asturias. We were in Somiedo Natural Park and we were able to go bear watching, and we also saw some wild boars. These are just some sculptures that were in the town that we were staying in. Asturias in northern Spain is quite like traditional feeling, and they have a lot of quite like rustic decoration styles, and I really like how they'd hung a lot of corn husks outside one of their houses, so I drew them. And now this is no longer a travel sketchbook. These are just some wild orchids that I was drawing. Man orchids and naked man orchids. They're a real thing, you should look them up. But that is everything in my sketchbook. That's all I've got in this one. That's the end of this week's video. I really hope you enjoyed having a little look in my sketchbooks. Also, thank you to everyone who left comments on my last video. It was really nice to be speaking to you again after such a long absence from me on my channel. Thanks to my patrons as well, and thank you to everyone who donated to the fundraisers. And I will hopefully see you again very soon. Bye.